Welcome to the NBA Tip-Off Show here at WagerTalk TV. I'm Megan Payton. Lots to break down in the NBA as we get into some Game 3 playoff action, and no better to do it than with three handicappers, Ralph Michaels, Andy Lang, Steve Merrill. Thank you all for being here on this lovely Friday. We're going to get some bets in, some ways for you to cash some tickets. Before we get into the three games up tonight, we got to go around the horn and hear what these guys have up at WagerTalk. Andy Lang, start us off. How are you, and what do you have going on at WagerTalk this week?
I'm doing great, Megan. Great to see you. Great to see Steve and Ralph as well. What do we have up? Well, it's a jam-packed weekend, and WagerTalk's doing this incredible promo code The Weekend Warrior, use the promo code WW20. Gets $20 off a 3-day pass, which is perfect for what I'm doing this weekend. I have 2 5% plays that go off tomorrow, one in soccer, one in UFC. We have 2 4% plays in lacrosse. We have all of our NHL and NBA. All those sports are going really well for us. Really happy with how 2023 is done, and that promo code works great for us this weekend. So encourage everyone to go get that. It's a great deal, way less expensive than getting all the plays individually. So just use the promo code WW20, get you 3 days worth of plays, and hopefully we have a big weekend.
See, plenty of action, not just in the NBA, but I'll say, Ralph Michaels, your angles and trends chart has really helped me through the NBA playoffs. So I know you've got that up at Wager Talk. What else do you have up at the site?
Megan, I, of course, have some TNA for today as well. And Andy did a great job mentioning it, guys. A 5% play is $35. A 3-day all access is $39. It's an absolute no-brainer. I'm on a 9-1 run the last 2 days. 4 plays today, 1 NBA playoff game, 1 NHL playoff game, 2 baseball games. Number 1 in the NBA the last 2 years. Number 2 in the NHL playoffs last year, off to a great start as well. Take advantage. Nice job sharing the promo, Andy. Way to go.
Steve, you're going to get sick of me because I got you tomorrow as well on last call. So we're going to get some free picks tomorrow as well as today. But what are you promoting up at Wager Talk this weekend?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Megan. You and I will be back on tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. And I think it's ironic it's called last call when it should be first call on Saturdays, right? It's before the game starts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, good call on there.
It's a damn good point, Megan. It's a damn good point. I was thinking about that earlier before the show, and we might have to switch up the Saturday show to first call. But, yeah, it's really great to have weekend content. In fact, I took it a step further. I just did an NBA playoffs fade the public video for all the Saturday games. So we're talking the Friday night NBA here on the show live. But I've also got the Saturday games previewed for you here on Wager Talk TV. That'll be posted within the next couple hours. So just yet another reason to hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when all these shows go live, including last call tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. And don't forget about baseball. I was on the baseball show earlier today. Check out the replay here on Wager Talk TV. Number 1 in the NBA in 2023, but I'm also number 1 in baseball in 2023. We've hit 73% winners this season. I'm very selective. I usually have like 1 play a day. I've isolated the single strongest play on the board for Friday Night Baseball. But don't forget about the free plays. You know, when you're selective, the free plays have a lot of value as well. They're games that are just a bit outside from making the cut. I've got a free underdog and also a best bet for Friday Night Baseball, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
We got a big weekend coming up. Last call, aka first call, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Today's the NBA tip-off show, so let's talk some basketball. Our first game on the slate out east, the Boston Celtics in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off at 7 Eastern. Celtics laying 5.5. The total at 228.5. If there's one game or one series that I think is going to be a sweep, I'm eyeing this one here. Boston's 2-0 in the series. Celtics also have won the last 5 games between these two this season. All 5 of those games have been, or 4 of the 5 have been double-digit victories. There's no reason for me to believe that Boston cannot cover this 5.5-point spread. Ralph Michaels, what did the trends and angles tell us for Game 3 as a 5.5-point favorite? Boston leading 2-0.
Megan, as I mentioned on Wager Talk today, anyone that bets the NBA playoffs knows that in the past decade, when you had a team down 0-2 coming back home, they were an almost automatic play in the first quarter and or the first half. But Vegas has adjusted their lines and the value has caught up. In fact, I remember last year and 2 years ago, there were some games where the first half line was higher than the full game line. I'm going to go through those numbers. Since 2007 to 2018, if you bet an 0-2 team back at home, they were 64-32, 67% for the first half. But since that time, with these adjustments we've made, you are now 15-15, 50%. So it's still not a losing proposition. And one thing I want to mention is that in the last few years, since we've had the play-in game, remember, it used to be 1 against the 8, and that was often the 0-2 teams. Now you're getting one against the 9, maybe one against the 10, where you have even a bigger differential from top to bottom. Also, I wanted to look at series game threes. If you're an away favorite in round one in game three, obviously you were a big favorite at home. Now you're the better team. Those teams have gone 72.7% against the spread. That's 32 and 32 and 12 ATS. So clearly, I agree with Boston here. You're going to hear me say the same thing that I like Denver as well with these 2-0 teams. We saw Philly handle their business. Again, they needed that late steal or throwaway to get it yesterday. But I look at Boston, and also away favorites of 4.5 that are up 2-0 have won 16-17. So there haven't been those upsets. That's since 2012. I think the difference in this series is White. 50 points the first two games. That leaves Tatum and Brown with so much less defensive intensity from the Hawks, having to cover White as well. And when I looked a little bit, the Celtics are only the third team in the last 20 years to be a top 3 team in both offensive and defensive efficiency. The only other teams to do that was the Warriors twice, and they won the championship in both times. You look at the Hawks as a small favorite or dog with more than 1 day's rest. They haven't adjusted well, only 1-8 ATS. Color me green for the Celtics today.
Boston's outscoring the Hawks. It's as simple as that. Celtics shooting over 55% from the field in game two, over 45% from three in game two. And it doesn't help that this Boston defense is holding the Hawks to minimal points. I'm with you, Ralph, here. Boston's the way to go. Steve Merrill, what's your approach out in Atlanta tonight?
Yeah, it's a great angle, Ralph, about the efficiency. I love balanced attacks, of course, in basketball, both college and pro. And I do think Boston's the team to beat. And keep in mind, they were a favorite in the finals last year, and they lost to Golden State. So this Boston team, it's hard to imagine they won't take care of business here. If Atlanta's going to be competitive in a game, though, it's going to be tonight. And the reason I say that is that teams that are down 0-3 normally get swept. So the motivational game is normally when they're down 0-2. And like Ralph said, for years, that was the best bet in all of sports until the odds makers caught on and they took the value away. It's interesting last night, that Philadelphia game, Sixers opened as a 4-point favorite. It closed 5, and they won by 5. So it was one of those rare instances we actually saw the line go higher against the team that's in quote unquote, the good situation. But as Ralph said, the road favorites perform well in this spot. If you are going to play Atlanta, my recommendation would be to play them early, first quarter or first half. I think Boston does pull away in this game, and that's what kept me off it tonight. Total is going to be interesting as well. You would think the Hawks are going to have to bring some defensive intensity in this game. You're looking at the full game spread. Total, it's around 228. First half is 117, which means the second half's 111. So they're actually calling for a higher scoring first half. But I think in order for Atlanta to have a chance, they probably need to play some defense tonight at home. Trae Young also needs to have a big game. Andy's the prop master, so it'd be interesting to get his take on this. But Trae Young's going to have to step up. He's the only chance I think Atlanta has tonight.
Let's talk some props here. A big motivation spot for Atlanta. No team in the NBA playoffs has overcome a 3-0 deficit, so that Atlanta will try to avoid that. Andy, we saw the Hawks improve their three-pointer attempts and try to increase some of that production. What else does Atlanta need to do tonight, and how can we handicap this game from a prop perspective?
Well, there's a couple of interesting spots here, and I see Money Channel in our online on YouTube. It said Trae Young over 25.5 points, and we've talked about Trae Young. This has to be a bounce back game for Atlanta. My problem is the Hawks have just flat out been better when he's not playing, and DeJounte Murray has been playing. It was pretty glaring in game one. That he struggled, and so they made adjustments and they played DeJounte Murray a lot more. He outplayed Trae Young, and as far as minutes, he's taken more shots than Trae in both of these games. And you look at the plus minus in game two, Trae was minus 13, DeJounte was even, and DeJounte has flown over his points, rebounds, and assist total. I mean, absolutely flown over it. And they have it at 31.5 today. And this is a guy that shot the ball 24 and 25 times in the first two games. And this coaching staff knows they need to win, and they're looking at this, and they're looking at Trae Young, who's turned the ball over a ton, who's ice cold from 3-pointers, and who is a complete defensive liability. We joked about earlier today. He's playing the after you defense. Someone from Boston drives late after you, and it's not working for him right now. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I think DeJounte has another big game. I think they lean on him as well. I mean, game 2, he played 40 minutes. He was 7 of 13 from 3-pointers. He had 29 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. That is 41 points, rebounds, and assists. And the books have his PRA at 41.5 tonight. I think it's too low. I'm rolling the dice and going with DeJounte Murray to have another big game.
And keep the props coming in the YouTube live chat. If you notice, we've got this new feature where your plays and your bets are coming up on our screen. So let's hear the thoughts. But Boston looking to get their 6th victory this season, their 3rd of the series, and essentially close out this first playoff series against the Hawks. Let's switch over to a game out in Madison Square Garden. We have the Cleveland Cavs at New York Knicks. Knicks laying 2.5, total at 211.5. Tip-off at 8:30 Eastern. This series is tied 1-1. Cavs won and covered the 5.5-point spread. Thank you, ski prophet Tony Mejia, for that cover. Cleveland showed that they can play better defense. They held the Knicks to 90 points, and they're going to have to do so again if they want to win out in Madison Square Garden. Steve Merrill, what's the approach for the Cavs to keep this momentum going?
Yeah, Megan, we just talked about maybe the most lopsided series, at least one of them in the first round. Boston was a 1-11 favorite to beat Atlanta, so no surprise that that's 2-0, maybe going to be 3-0. But this is probably the most competitive price series. In fact, this and the Laker Grizzlies had the 2 lowest series odds coming into round 1. And I think the zigzag is going to work very well here. The modified zigzag is what I like to play, and that's basically playing quality teams or the better team off a loss. We definitely got a quality team off a loss here in the Knicks, but we might actually be getting the better team. In fact, I had the Knicks as a strong best bet last Saturday for my clients at WagerTalk.com. They won the game outright as a dog, was not a surprise. Part of the reason we're hitting 80% of the NBA playoffs right now. I stayed off game 2 because I thought the bounce back spot favored Cleveland, but I kind of still lean New York overall in this series. So that kept me off game 2. I was happy to see a blowout loss for the Knicks because one of my favorite angles in the NBA playoffs isn't just playing good teams off a loss, it's playing teams off a blowout loss, especially quality teams. And the fact that we get the Knicks here as a 1.5-point favorite shows that they are a quality team in this game. So I think it's a good situational setup. And I look for New York to bounce back here at home tonight in game 3.
Let's talk a little player props, Andy. I'm eyeing Donovan Mitchell here. His player point line's at 29.5. Despite the Knicks lost, they held Donovan Mitchell to just 17. Mitchell has averaged over 34 the last few weeks, so this feels like a little bit of a one-off situation for Mitchell. Would you eye the over here at 29.5, or are there some other player prop markets that we should be eyeing?
Oh man, this is a tough series. I do not have any client plays up in this one for today. I find this series tough. The only one we were rolling with was Mitchell Robinson under his points, rebounds, and assists, but they don't have a line for him right now. So there will be no client plays in this game for me. I know what you're saying about Donovan Mitchell. I was kicking myself for not playing Garland last game because in game 1, Garland was kind of a non-factor. And he's too good to not be that involved. And he came back with a really, really strong game 2 with 32 points. I mean, Donovan Mitchell wasn't like he shot terrible or was in foul trouble or anything. He played 39 minutes. He just only took 11 shots because Karis LeVert and Darius Garland got all the times or all the production. I think this is probably a get right game for Mitchell. Garland had his 32 points. LeVert had his 24 points. So you got to believe there's a little bit more effort to stop those two defensively, which should leave Mitchell open. I don't think he's going to have only 11 attempts in this game like he did last game. So, Megan, I'm with you on that one. I can't say it's a very strong play for me personally. I think you're on the right side if you have Mitchell over his points. But for me, just a little lean.
Maybe we talk a little total here. The line's at 211.5. The under has hit in both games. And the Cavs defense was the best in the NBA during the regular season. Steve mentioned perhaps over could be the lean here. Ralph, what are the trends? What are the angles when it comes to total?
Megan, being from Cleveland, a previous season ticket holder and watching the Cavs play, I am only going to go under on the Cavs. I am not going to play an over on the Cavs, even if the situation calls for it. We're talking to becoming an elite defense, and the difference is Darius Garland. Listen, at the start of the year, once they acquired Mitchell and they had Garland, I thought they might be the worst defensive guard combo in the NBA. But when you have Okura and Mobley and Allen behind them, they really it is one of the most defensive minded front courts in all of basketball, and they play elite shutdown defense. The difference is the defense of Darius Garland this past game. He was absolutely incredible. I mean, it almost looked back to the Jordan days, and I don't want to embellish a little bit, but the game he had might have been the best game in the entire playoffs this year. And the funny thing is this: Donovan Mitchell said, there's a couple times this season when I've seen Darius Garland when he went off for his 40-plus points that you could see it in his eyes. He said this was the first game that the entire season that in pregame, he knew Garland was going to have that monster of the game, the way he's quiet, the way he went through his pregame. So Mitchell and Garland are really clicking, and that's the type of guard combo you want when you go on the road. I did not play them. I did play the Cavs for the series. That was before the series started. When you have the better defensive team as a dog, that's always a play that you want to keep in gear. But, the reason I didn't play the total was, we've seen the value go away a little bit. The first game was 216. Now you have 214. So you're shedding off a few more points. So all of a sudden now, when I did use the over in game one, we're now 4.5 points lower than that value. So I'm going to lean with the under in this game. And Steve, while you were talking, I went to the WagerTalk playoff guide that I did with my son. It's still available on his page at Sports Memo or mine. And Megan, you mentioned it. There's still a lot of great value. So Steve, one of the angles I had in the guide, and there's 3 years of charts. There's round by round. There's seed by seed. But one of them was a team that failed to cover their last game by 21 points or more, going back to 2004. Those teams against the spread have gone 83 and 56, 59.7%. So you said you like taking teams that are off a blowout loss that failed to cover by a great margin. We can quantify that with a 60% cover rate since 2004.
Love it.
The competitive series between the Knicks and the Cavs continues. One note, New York hasn't played its best basketball at Madison Square Garden. Let's see if that changes tonight out in New York. Let's switch over to a game that gave me a little bit of an anxiety attack yesterday or 2 days ago. That's the Denver Nuggets at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nuggets lane 2, total at 222. Tip off at 9:30 Eastern. The Nuggets lead this series 2-0, and the reason I was stressed was because I had a parlay on the over and the Nuggets to cover the 8.5-point spread. It hit, thank goodness, and I cashed in my ticket. But now they go to Minnesota. It's a different ball game because Denver has been phenomenal at home. On the road, not as much. This could be a good spot for the Timberwolves, who look to get a major Game 3 win. The NBA playoffs, they're tough. If you lose 3, the likelihood of you coming back, it's pretty much none. It's never happened before. Andy Lang, from a player prop perspective or a prop market perspective, what should we be looking at tonight out in Minnesota?
Well, a couple of, I don't want to say obscure ones, but Jokic to have a triple-double is now plus 200 because he did not have one in the first 2 games. And the first game was a complete blowout. So he played limited minutes, didn't even come close. Last game, he was 1 rebound and 1 assist away. So just a couple plays away from having a triple-double. So books are looking at it, say he's 0 for 2 for having a triple-double. But, I mean, this guy's a triple-double machine. So you would expect the Timberwolves to be playing with a little bit more intensity here at home. I think there's value in Jokic, plus 200. I did notice the books have Karl Anthony Towns on his turnovers, which most people don't look at the turnovers category. They have him at 2.5. He's had 4 in game 1 and 5 in game 2. So he's playing a ton of minutes. The defense has gotten around him. He's sloppy with the ball. I would say the 2.5 turnovers is pretty good. And unfortunately, I think the books have caught up on Jamal Murray. I would caution people about taking Jamal Murray over his points, rebounds, and assists, and even his points. It's one of the props I thought the books have almost overcompensated with. There were some stats out about how good Jamal Murray is in the playoffs compared to the regular season. And it's coming off of a huge game, and they have his points at 22.5. They have his points, rebounds, and assists well over 30. So I know he's coming off a 40-point game. I would caution everybody to immediately jump on Jamal Murray. But I do have a Jamal Murray prop for a best bet in the show that I'll get to in a little bit. But I would look at Jokic, a little sprinkle on the triple-double, and Karl Anthony Towns over 2.5 turnovers.
Andy, I was this close the other night to getting that Jokic triple-double. He just needed one more rebound and one more assist, but that's how betting goes. Ralph Michaels, for the Minnesota Timberwolves to win, it's going to have to be a big game from Anthony Edwards again. We're going to have to see a lights-out performance from him, also Karl Anthony Towns getting in, and then they can stand a chance here. That's the only way that the Timberwolves get it done tonight. What do you think, and what are you looking at for this one, Game 3 in Minnesota?
Well, I am going to lean Denver again. And the reason is this. Both teams shot over 50% last game. Denver shot 54, Minnesota shot 50.6. Do I think Denver is more likely to shoot 50% on the road, or do I think Minnesota will shoot 50% in back-to-back games? You look, and since, the end of March, they've only topped 50% in one game, and that was at San Antonio, where they went nuts and shot 55%, but they allowed 52% in that game. So this is a game that I'm using as my best bet. I'm going to go Denver again. We saw that. We had the suspension in game 1. We saw the teams not playing in sync game 2. We saw the defensive issues in game 2 for them. And Edwards, can he score 40 plus again? Yeah, he can. But Denver has so many more scoring opportunities for them. So not many options in this for me. I am using Denver. I'm leaning Denver. I'm leaning Denver best bet as well. But it's just because of the situation. Minnesota playing non-cohesively. Denver, I think, is still feeling disrespected. I mean, when you were the number 1 seed and you dominated like you do, and you were the third, maybe you were almost tied for 4th as far as being able to win the Western Conference, the division future, the future odds to win the Western Conference. So again, this is the away favorites have worked for me in game 3. I'm going to stick with it again here.
I agree with you, Ralph. One thing that makes me worry a little bit is that the Denver Nuggets, the 2 times they played Minnesota on the road, they lost those games, and now they look to do it again in a game where the motivation is clearly there for the Wolves. Steve, could we eye maybe a total? Is that the move here at 222, or are you going to be looking at the spread?
Well, it's tricky because just like the first game we talked about, we've got that 0-2 situation, which has always historically been a very strong play for the home team down 0-2. But then again, just like the Boston-Atlanta series, we have the better team up 2-0. And as Ralph said, road favorites usually do okay in that spot. I do think Minnesota has a chance here, though, for a few reasons. First of all, Denver, as you said, was not as good on the road this year, Megan. They were just 19-22 in all games on the road this year, not just the Minnesota games. And that makes sense because they have a substantial home court advantage, especially in the regular season due to the thin air and altitude. They can catch teams in a no rest or a 3 and 4 day game situation. The playoffs, everybody has the same rest, same travel. So I think it's less of an edge. But this is a Denver team that overall, what were they, 36-7 at home, I believe now, after the 2 wins, but just 19-22 on the road. We saw an extreme home road dichotomy with Golden State entering the playoffs. Home team is a perfect 3-0 in that series so far against Sacramento. So I do think Minnesota has a chance. If you're going to play them, though, I think the better angle is first quarter or first half. As we've established, that's where the teams do best down 0-2 in game 3. And as Ralph mentioned, the odds makers have done a good job compensating for that. And I pointed this out for several years now. It's insane to see first half lines and first quarter lines higher than the full game line. I do a lot of analogies to the financial world. It's like negative interest rates a few years ago. In hindsight, that was insane. Now the rates are at like 5%. But I do think we're getting a more reasonable price here around the pick-em range when the full game line is 2.5. So if you're going to take Minnesota, I like the early bet better. Same with Atlanta. Take them early because the better team likely pulls ahead later. As far as the total in this game, it's tricky because the first game in Denver landed just 189, well under the total by 30-some points, almost 40 points. But again, that was a blowout, right? So it wasn't a true result. The last game was a little bit more of a true result, but even then, Denver was up by 15 at the half. I think Minnesota probably needs to play a little bit more D if they're going to win tonight. I know that's not their MO, but once again, they're going to have to get some defense on their home court to have a chance.
Sean Evans brings a good point up in our YouTube live chat about the total. He says the total's gone over in 7 of the last 9 games when playing Minnesota, that is Denver. And so maybe it is the move to play the over at 222. Either way, this is a competitive series and a must-win game for Minnesota. Game 3 is where the action is, and it's time to talk best bets. Let's get some best tickets tonight as we break down Game 3 action. Andy Lang, start us off. You have 60 seconds on the clock. Rules are simple. If you're new here, you got the time. Get in, get out, give us a bet, do whatever you want, but make sure you're out in 60 seconds. So show us how it's done, Andy. Your time starts now.
A lot of plays up for this weekend, a lot of big plays. We have a 5% play in UFC, 5% play in soccer, and number 1 in soccer the last 365 days, as well as 2023. We're perfect 4-0 lifetime in soccer, 5% plays. And just use the promo code WW20. Get you $20 off a 3-day pass, so you end up with a 3-day pass for only $39. It's just a no-brainer to use this for the weekend. You get all plays for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For our best bet today, I'm going to Jamal Murray, and I'm going under 2.5 turnovers. He is very, very safe with the ball, and this Minnesota defense does not pressure the perimeter very much in the regular season. They had 9 out of 10 games where they did not force over this number to opposing point guards. Last game, he went over this total because the referees called 3 offensive fouls on him. That's how he went over, and I lost that bet. It was infuriating. He lost because of offensive fouls. It doesn't happen again. Give me under 2.5 turnovers.
Once again, the refs getting involved. I'd like to do a little survey. I'm pausing the best bet section here. Go to the YouTube live chat. I want to just rate from 1 to 10. How have the refs been for the NBA playoffs? I know we're going to have some maybe thoughts on some ejections, some suspensions. Let's spice things up today on Friday.
Scott Foster the best.
Can of worms.
Michaels, as we eye the YouTube live chat and hear what everyone has to say about the refs, let's also get some positive feelings on this Friday afternoon. You have 60 seconds. You're going to give us a best bet and promo whatever you have going on. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Well, I was going to tell you to tune into the Dodgers Cub game because Smiley had a no-hitter in the 7th, but he gave up a hit with 2 outs and they yanked him. So it's the Cubs 13, the Dodgers nothing. As I said, I am going to use Denver. This home favorite role has been working the last few years. It's been almost dynamic. I will mention this. These 2 teams are the number 2 and number 4 scoring teams in the first quarter, both averaging over 30 points in the first quarter. 56.5 is the first quarter total, so I'll throw that in. Best bet, Denver, and a bonus play over first quarter, 56.5.
With 20 seconds on the clock left, you're giving us plenty of time to discuss the chat, which is all so positive. Can you only imagine? Well, everyone just has nice things to say about the refs. They've done an amazing job. Just kidding. It's the opposite. All right, we'll let that continue and spice up. We're stirring the pot on Friday. Steve Merrill, you're going to end us on a high note here this Friday afternoon. You have 60 seconds. The clock starts now.
It's a great time of year to be playing baseball and basketball. In fact, no one's been better in 2023 at WagerTalk.com. I'm number 1 ranked in the NBA, up 70 units already in 2023, 80% winners in the NBA playoffs. But baseball's been fantastic as well. Number 1 ranked 73% overall in MLB. Quality over quantity. I've got a strong MLB best bet tonight. Also a bonus free play game that was just a bit outside. And don't forget my NBA Fade the Public playoff edition is available right now for Saturday's games as well here on Wager Talk TV. And check out Last Call, First Call, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern with Megan Payton and myself. We'll be here on the network as well. Let's get to a free NBA game for Friday night, though. A game that just missed the cut. I like the New York Knicks -1.5. Whenever I get a quality team off a loss, it catches my attention, especially a blowout loss. It's a long-term 60% play in the NBA playoffs, and it applies tonight with the New York Knicks. I like the situation. I think they actually might be the better team in this series. We cashed with them in Game 1 as a best bet, coming back with them to win here in Game 3 tonight on Friday.
Perfect timing, Steve. And I'll jump on this Jokic trend a little bit Andy was mentioning. I took him as triple-double a couple nights ago. It just barely didn't work out. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take it again. Let's go. Jokic, triple-double tonight. But let's take a picture of this best bets recap. These are the handicappers that you want to bet on. Don't take my crazy bets. Take a screenshot right now of Andy Lang, Steve Merrill, Ralph Michaels, their best bets for tonight's action. We appreciate you joining us here at the NBA Tip-Off Show. Go cash some bets. Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, join us at Last Call tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you next time here on the NBA Tip-Off Show.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.